now I cannot drink bourbon. If I drink bourbon, so this is Captain and Coke. That yeah, my 8-year-old made this for me. Is that illegal?
I think you're all right. You ever drink it with Dr. Pepper?
Captain Dr. Pepper?
Oh, so good. Or bourbon and Dr. Pepper?
No, I'm gonna drink that after that one. I think so. Welcome to the second edition of Frankie Say. This is Tanner Freiberg, and Tanner, I gotta tell you, you're one of my favorite people to talk to in Quincy. So whenever, so you're one of the few people I have like almost no Twitter followers to really speak of. But there's times where I'll see like a little like, oh Tanner, this whatever, and your responses are hilarious. And whenever we see each other, I think. I'm not saying we agree on everything, but I feel like there's so many things that, you know how you have like in Quincy, there's, kindred spirits of people who just like kind of, you'll say something, I'm like, yep, that's right. That's absolutely correct. And then sometimes our mutual friends will say something, we're like, yeah, that sounds about right. And, I was thinking, I think Bob and Ashley had Adam Booth on, Club Muddy.
Just watched that today.
How was it? Was it good?
Good. It was good.
And I think Booth's entrepreneurial spirit is pretty darn interesting.
Yeah. I've known Adam since we were in kindergarten together, so I've known him forever.
Which school?
Monroe.
Okay. One thing I'm going to do here is I am going to track this real quick to make sure that we don't go crazy over our time, because sometimes I do that. But one of the things that I thought was pretty important to have you on is because you have this really incredible entrepreneurial spirit in Quincy. It's shocking, like how effective you are.
Thanks.
One of the things that you've done recently is, so one of the things that you've done recently is like kind of like make this youth basketball kind of a big deal, and you've done some work on expanding youth basketball. You've started a new business. You're still currently working at your. Yeah, we do a lot of different stuff. So real quick, thanks for having me on. Yeah,
I'm glad to be here. Number 2 guest. That's pretty special. The basketball thing. So what really started that was, I don't like the food and beverage tax, and I hate it. I think it's a terrible thing, but. What are you going to do? It's here. So rather than complain about it all the time, I decided, I'm going to try to use it to my advantage. So I contacted some youth basketball companies to see if they would come to Quincy. And one of them that my son had played at that I always really liked was Hoops Midwest. I think they're out of Springfield, but we would play in their Jeff City tournaments. So I reached out to them, got them to come to Quincy. They loved, the facilities were good, and they tried a tournament. I think it was their quickest sellout for a tournament ever, their first one in Quincy.
How many teams approximately?
I think
or how many players, or
40 teams
for your first one?
I didn't. They ran it. I just got them to come here.
Yeah, but you persuaded them to do it.
Yeah, the biggest issue, Holly Kane was a huge help on that.
Holly Kane is awesome.
She's incredible. But the biggest problem we had was the facilities. So QU's got nice courts, but the seating there for the crowd to watch is a major issue. Yeah. The teams have to sit at the end of the courts because there's not enough space in between the courts there. And then the other issue, initially they were going to use, I think, was it St. Francis that's across the street?
Yep.
They were going to use that, but then the diocese in Springfield said, nope, you're not allowed to rent out the gym. So they lost that one at the last minute, which they ended up, I think, picking up Liberty that first tournament because they needed more courts. But the problem with Quincy is we don't have facilities.
The Springfield diocese said no to youth basketball. All right, okay.
Because then St. Peter's was out. Every other school was out after that point.
We're going to have a separate pod for how mad I am that my 8-year-old daughter is getting forced into First Communion and Confirmation at the same time this year for being in 3rd grade. But anyway, separate thing. So are you guys going to do it again?
Yeah, they just did it last weekend. They had a tournament.
Last weekend?
Last weekend.
Here?
The Hoops Midwest did, yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah,
I apologize then. Okay.
It was real good.
So, well, thanks for doing that. So how does that affect? Do people stay the night?
Yeah, actually I talked to, we were out of town, unfortunately, so we didn't get to play in it, but a good friend of mine, Kyle Snyder, he had a grade is it? Third grade. His son's in third grade, and they played in it. And one of the teams they played was from, I think, Naperville or up in the Chicago area. And to get a different look at other teams, they had drove all the way down here to play. So obviously they're staying the night for a 2-day tournament. So that's
there's probably quite a bit. So you're selling hotel rooms.
Oh yeah,
you're doing it the right way. So ironically, and what's so interesting about how you said you don't like the food and bev tax, I don't disagree with that sentiment. I think we need to find a way to lower taxation. Like, I mean, I always make the joke. It's not really a joke because it's not funny, but I think you and I have talked about this. But if slavery is 100% taxation, at what point is it not slavery? What is the percentage that every American should be, your patriotic duty to pay as it relates to not overstaying your because you and I talk about this sometimes. You and I have talked about this, generally speaking, about kind of I'm going to call it the old school libertarian democratic republic that we're trying to push forward here, and where should taxes be? And everyone's paying different percentage of taxes, but nobody really knows what percentage in taxes they pay. Yeah. They might know what tax bracket they're in, but they don't know the full Monty. They don't know exactly what they're paying. But the
government knows.
The government knows.
They won't tell you, but they know.
They won't tell you what it is, but they know. But actually, no, I mean, they truly don't know because they're not keeping track of my sales tax. Like every time that I pay the food and beverage tax, the government doesn't know that I'm doing that. If I'm paying cash, they don't know. Actually, nobody knows.
Yeah, you got corporate taxes. I mean, corporations don't pay taxes. Bottom line, it's just a pass-through cost. Right. So every time you buy a product, you're paying a tax. You're paying their taxes. Yeah, because it's built into the price. I mean, you got to factor that into it as well.
You have to factor everything in. I mean, if you're drinking a beer, how much of that beer is tax?
Yeah.
I mean, we've got mutual friends that run liquor distributions here in Quincy.
And then you got to have a liquor license. Technically, that's a tax.
That's a license. That's a tax. So, I mean, every time I go to the fuel pump, I'm putting gas in my car. Yeah. I don't know I certainly don't know the total amount of taxes I'm paying at the pump. I don't know. Isn't it hidden?
Yeah.
I mean, is there something where it says the amount that you're paying per gallon? Then is there a fuel tax or sales tax in there on the receipt? I guess I need to look better. But some of the other things that you've done. So you built another business recently. Do you want to talk about that? Or how about this? Without saying the name of it, thank you for introducing a great business in this town that people can go get great drinks. How about that? Let's put it that way. Do you plan on building any more businesses?
I mean, we're always looking for different opportunities, but yeah, Winks Drinks. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. It's been fun. It's different. I've never been in the food and beverage industry, so for me to jump into that, it's been humbling and very challenging. But
how did you get up and running so fast?
Man, we got a great crew. We got really good people. Talia Miller, she runs the store for us. She's phenomenal. My wife had a lot of input and help into getting it off the ground. She came up with the name, the concept. A lot of the quirky parts of the business was my wife and my dad. I mean, we're partners on everything, so it was good. It's been fun.
What's it like working with your dad?
Man, I love it. It's so fun. That's what it's all about for me. At the end of the day, it's just getting to go to work. My dad's there, my brother's there, my mom. We all work together in a family business, and to see them and spend time like that together, that's special.
That is pretty special. I know that supposedly I work inside a family business, but there's not very much nepotism in our business, and I'm always interested watching the Freibergs work because you guys have multiple businesses. They're all very good businesses. They work well. I don't know if you know this, but I'm still a customer of Freiberg Insurance. I've got a really good. I've had a lot of really great things to say about that company. But I kind of want to ask you a question about business in Quincy. Do you think? So when I talk about the Eastern Corridor, so that's so-called Broadway, maybe from 18th Street to 63rd, something like that. What do you consider to be the
I
eastern
usually say
corridor?
anything east of 12th Street.
East of 12th Street? Okay.
That's what I consider, but yeah,
Okay.
you could argue 18th.
Well, no, I think you're right because because the district ends at 12th Street, right?
Yeah.
And then if I say the eastern corridor starts at 18th, then we're like robbing 6 blocks there. So we need to incorporate.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're right. Yeah, eastern corridor would be anything east of 12th. If you had to, if a genie gave you a wish about and said, where could you invest in Quincy next? Would it be in the district or would it be in the eastern corridor? Now I know that. So is Freiburg Insurance in the district or
We're
close?
14th and Broadway, so we're close.
So it's darn close. It's right on
Close.
it's right on the borderline. But then you've got Wing Strengths is kind of is that out 24th?
North 24th. Yeah.
So that's kind of out in that area. I've talked to guys like Stephen Gramke and a lot of different really good people about where the money should be invested in Quincy. Do you have any opinion? Is there a particular area in Quincy that you think is?
I think it kind of varies on the type of business.
Okay.
If you're retail, obviously, I think you need to be on Broadway.
Okay.
If you're more of an office exposure, you don't necessarily have to be on Broadway. You could be on South 36th Street. There's trade-offs depending on the type of business.
Okay. Do you think the district? So do you think both are valuable? Because there are some people who do not think. Well, I mean, obviously the district is growing, and obviously, so there's a new restaurant opening up right here on the corner of 6th and Main called 8 Open.
I know. I've had their food truck. It's incredible.
Yeah. And so Jared Tipton is the leader of that. I mean, that's his business. He's opening. Then you've got the guys from the Blind Goat, Brannigan and LJ. They're opening up in the Craig's expansion. Have you seen this? So
Yeah. I
Tierney,
just started following them.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
They make
cider.
Yeah, Blind Goat. They make mead. They make cider. So I have not had their cider, but so Josh Craig, and I'm going to quote the great Josh Craig. He said, "I've had every different kind of cider that you can have. These guys make the best cider I've ever had." And I remember talking to them when I'm trying to put somebody in a commercial space on the promenade. It's been difficult in my space there, and I can tell you why we don't have anything in that space right now. But we almost did a deal with them. But I'm really glad that they're opening in the Craig space of that Quincy Brewing Company expansion, because that's a huge thing.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's a huge deal. So, ironically, the promenade is going to feature 2 breweries.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Which
Who
is
thought that would happen.
And there's a possibility of a third coming on. So it's just who would have thought that the 6th Street Promenade would have been so full of breweries, which is pretty cool. Do you think if you could invest in the eastern corridor? So let's say we have a nondescribed business, but it's heavy foot traffic, popular destination area, like place. Let's assume that you own it. Let's assume you've got a great staff, very friendly, and you can put them either on the riverfront, somewhere in the district. I know the riverfront is technically the district, but let's just separate it for a second, because riverfront can get kind of hairy. Some people just do not want there to be like a boaters and docks and music and restaurants and this whole thing down by the riverfront, like rock and roll jamming.
You don't think
people?
I think everybody wants that.
Do you think?
I just don't think they want to pay for it. They don't want their tax dollars going to it.
Okay.
And I would
That's fair.
I would fall into that category.
That's fair.
I think a riverfront would be great, but I don't want to be the one that has to pay for all of it. I'll go support the businesses. We go to the dock. I love going down there and listening to music. We used to love to go to Native when they were open. I'll support it, but I don't want my tax dollars going there.
That's fair. So, okay, so let's go back to this for a minute, because I think there's a lot of people that want to know what's going on with taxes going forward. Have you ever heard the saying that taxes are the price you pay for living in a civilized society?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I have a different approach.
Okay.
I think taxes are the prices we pay for living in an uncivilized society. How about that?
Well,
So,
we'll expand what.
So this idea of that we're living in a civilized when you've got these massive gaps between rich and poor, massive incarceration rates. I mean, I think the United States houses 25% of the world's prison population.
Wow.
We've got these programs where when you're like older, 65 and older, when does Medicare kick in? So Medicare is government health insurance for somebody who's quote unquote older. Mm-hmm. Medicaid is government health insurance for people who are quote unquote poorer. I mean, I
think that's right.
I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, the way that I look at it is you've got people in the middle class somewhere between poor and rich. They're not poor enough to be in Medicaid and they're not old enough to be in Medicare. But you've got this area where you're in private insurance and you've got a choice to make. You can get insured or not get insured. I'm talking about health insurance first. And you know a lot about insurance, so I can't teach you a damn thing about insurance. You can teach me. But what I'm saying is, I don't know I know like we like to think of ourselves as a really highly civilized society, but maybe as we progress with technology, there are so many people that are living on the government teat, as it were, where I don't know how civilized that is. They are not either able to take care of themselves or they're forced to not be to take care of themselves. So, for example, our parents, mm-hmm. there's going to come a time where we will not be able to necessarily go to Freiburg Insurance. Like they will not be able to buy private insurance. They will be forced to go to Medicare. Is that correct?
I think so. Well, I don't know if they're forced to, but
doesn't everybody?
Why wouldn't you do it if you qualify?
Right, but I mean, can an 80-year-old woman get private healthcare insurance, or does she get?
Sure, I'm sure they could buy it.
Okay.
Still buy it.
But is it that we live in like the golden age of Medicare? And by the way, I'm not trying to put you on the spot for insurance questions.
We don't sell health insurance, so.
You don't sell health insurance. Okay, well maybe that's smart.
Yeah, we got out of that with Obamacare.
I buy my property insurance from Freiburg. I've got multiple properties insured by Freiburg, so thank you very much. You guys do a great job. It's a great job. Your whole staff is awesome. But this idea of my parents I know are on Medicare. And it's the golden age of Medicare. I mean, my dad needed a knee surgery. So he just snaps his fingers and gets a knee surgery. My mother had double cataracts removed and she's got brand new lenses and sees 20/20. She got double knee surgery. I mean, she is sucking all the dollars out of Medicare. I mean, God love her. She's getting up there. I mean, she's still young. She's still in her 70s. So you're welcome, Mom. So, but this idea of just getting forced into government programs against your will, like the food and bev tax. Yeah. Do you feel like you're forced into that program?
You don't really have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
And they say, well, you can build the price into or you can build the tax into the price of your food or drink or whatever. But the problem is, so like our gaming parlors, we sell beer for $1. I can't say, well, now we're going to do $1.01. So we just have to eat it. So that's one of the issues I have why I don't care for the food and beverage tax.
Yeah. So okay. So
it's also, I think it's a slush fund for people to decide who gets it and who doesn't get it.
Yeah. There's no real hardcore premise. Do you need a beer? Where's that awesome? You should grab a beer out of that thing.
You need one?
No, I'm good. I'm not sure. I'm gonna drink Alejandra's. Huh?
I'm not sure I've ever seen anybody sit at this table and get a second or third drink.
Oh, Mr. Goff. Where's Mr. Goff? I got to tell you something that's kind of fun about Bob. So when he likes quality journalism, he likes doing all these things, but he likes to have fun. He works really hard. He works hard, but likes to have fun.
I thought I kind of pissed him off.
When?
Well, I mean, the business spotlight, he's never had me on for that.
Oh, he chose Booth over you?
Club Buddy, the pinnacle of Muddy River. He has Booth. He doesn't have me.
Well,
I was surprised when you asked me to come on.
Well, I mean, I ran it through Bob. You know, he doesn't care. He's a yeah. so listen. You're on Frankie Say. You're on the Frankie Say pod. So I think you're good. Wouldn't you listen? Do you really want to go on with Bob and Ashley?
Oh, you're
this is. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to listen. If Ashley was here right now, she'd be cutting us off left and right. She would be like she talks 85% of the time. Ashley Conrad, if you're out there, love you so much. You're the best.
I think she's up at the fair right now.
She is?
Sweating.
She probably is. No, she's awesome. She's super fun. She's smart, fast on her feet, just quick-witted. She's super smart. But so yeah, this if you could change one thing about Quincy, what would it be? And that's a really hard question. So I'm gonna let you kind of like simmer that a little bit and let that. That's a really hard thing.
Change one thing.
If you can change something about Quincy, what is something about Quincy? Because my next question is going to be, why are you living here and why do you like living here? My first thing is like, what do you want to
incorporate Quincy or cut it into Missouri? Get out of Illinois.
Whoa! Yeah. So you would be part of? Oh, so you cut like all of Adams County or just Quincy?
Sure, or the whole, as much as you could, all the downstate. I don't know. Just you got to get. I mean, this state's destroying it destroys our town. It's hard to get business to come here because of the state. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Okay. I recently took a trip to the south suburbs of Nashville. Ever been in that area?
Yeah.
Okay. Franklin.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All those places. So those are the south suburbs of Nashville. There's something interesting about. So we are a red city and a blue state.
Right.
Would you agree? Okay. What is better, a red city in a blue state or a blue city in a red state?
I'd go blue city in a red
state. Okay, yeah. Okay, well, because when you live in a red state, you've got those blue cities. I mean, unless it's Memphis, Tennessee, which is like, oh my gosh, super blue. Memphis, Tennessee, and Nashville, not the same thing.
No.
Not even close. And you can kind of see with like San Francisco. So California is it's like a wonderland of ridiculousness. And every time I go to California, I think to myself, to me, it's the most beautiful state. Beautiful. I mean, the roads are perfect. Yeah. There's mountains. There's every microclimate. You've got the weather. I'm sorry about the weather.
Redwoods. I mean, it's everything.
No, you got wine country. You got the ocean. Yeah. I mean, name something that California doesn't have.
Yeah.
Does it have water?
It's the ultimate. I mean, it's the perfect state.
It's perfect. It's amazing, and the politics just ruin it all. Yeah. And then what bothers me about Illinois is Illinois has very similar politics, not quite as bad as California, but like right there. But all Illinois has is like flat fields of nothing. There's no ocean. I mean, there's Lake Michigan, but there's the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
I love the Mississippi. Like, I don't want it taken away.
We have nothing like.
We don't have anything like California.
And our wine just isn't quite as good as Napa.
It's not. Yeah. So I got to be careful there because I drink a lot of Napa wine, a lot of Sonoma, a lot of Mendocino, a lot of, what is St. Louis Pispo or whatever. I've been drinking a lot of California wine, but the Illinois wine just doesn't have this. We don't have the same terroir.
Yeah.
We don't have the same climate. It's hard to grow. We don't have Chardonnay. We've got, what's the Illinois indigenous, like the varietals. But it's not Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, or Merlot, and Petit Verdot, and Malbec. It's other stuff that is indigenous to Illinois. Justin, to your point, this idea of I came back from Franklin, Tennessee, and I noticed that there's this general feel. And when I was there for 3 or 4 days. I took full advantage talking to a lot of people who live in that area. And they're so much like Quincy people. And if we lived in a red state, I think Quincy would have 200,000 people that would live here.
Oh, it would boom. It would definitely.
Do you know the number one thing that Quincy doesn't have that it needs to have, and this is a circular argument, is people.
Yeah.
It's people. I mean, if we had the population of Springfield, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Springfield, Illinois for a lot of reasons, and I don't want to crap on them too much, but I do not like Springfield. Every time I drive through there, I'm just like, oh my gosh, no, I got to get me out of here. It feels very like wormy, crawly. Hold my body. I don't like Springfield. But I think Quincy, the people of Quincy, I've known people who have come from all over the world. There are people that live in Quincy that are from Croatia, Serbia, Russia, other parts of the state. I mean, Honduras, Estonia. I know some people from Singapore that just recently moved here.
Yeah, there's people from everywhere.
From everywhere because it's such a regional healthcare kind of place. But we're trying to get a larger population. But people say, what does Quincy not have that you want it to have? People.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk about.
That's a good point.
Well, right now
we got the jobs. I mean, everyone's desperate. Every manufacturer in town could use more employees.
If we went to a place in Quincy, if we could fast forward and get into the time machine where we've got the big, huge athletic complexes, we've got the riverfront developed. The district, there's no, there's very few vacancies, commercial vacancies in the district, but not all of them are as high quality as it need to be. I mean, there's a lot of, I know you got to have law firms. I'm not against law firms because you need good lawyers, and you need a good tattoo parlor here and there.
Got to have those.
But I think we need a lot more food and bev and activities. I'm not talking about the food and bev tax.
No, I got you.
I'm talking about restaurants, bars.
I think that for the downtown, though, I think they need bodies. You need more people down here.
Yeah. And
the housing, where the downtown is now compared to where it was when I was a kid, is unbelievable. The growth it has taken and the investment, the people that have put money into this downtown, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a night and day difference from growing up. I mean, don't you remember coming down here? Empty buildings everywhere.
Yeah.
There was sketchy bars on corners. I mean, it's really grown. I mean, they've done it. The people that have committed to the downtown have done a fantastic job growing it.
I think so too. And it takes enormous amounts of people to do that. Do you think do you think downtown Quincy is worth investing in? Just knowing what you know about real estate and rising interest rates, all of these things.
I'm just not an old building guy. For me, I think you got to look at it more as a hobby versus a investment, because there's constant update and upkeep with these buildings. Tuck pointing, that's expensive.
It is expensive.
You got a lot of old electric wire. You got old plumbing. There's a lot of issues. So if you don't do a full blown tear down and rebuild, I think you've got to look at it as a hobby, in my opinion. So
my second question there. So the first thing I asked is what do you think? What would you change? And you said people, right?
I'd switch states, but.
Oh no, you said you would cut.
I would join. I would move Quincy to a red state.
You would make Quincy part of Missouri.
Right.
So it would be Quincy, Missouri.
Correct.
So you'd have West Quincy, Missouri, and Quincy, Missouri.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, what happens? Quincy booms.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So is this success? So you're not talking about succession. Well, you're talking about succession away from Illinois, right? And joining things, and Illinois would not want to do that,
and
right?
I think another thing for population, or to get Quincy to boom, is we need to stand out. Our town. I mean, if you go to Burlington or Hannibal or Keokuk, we all have the same brick buildings. We all have the same riverfront. There's nothing that's truly unique about Quincy. I mean, Quincy's a unique town. We've got great architecture. The people here are awesome. But when you look at our town compared to other towns, do you think we stand out that much more?
So this is really interesting. So we've got somebody who works for the National Main Street Association, and it's actually Joy Austin, and she's from Batavia. Okay, so her maiden name is Cortero. The way that she grew up, like Filipino Catholic, she came to Quincy, and she said something to me once. She said, have you ever been to Hannibal? I go, yeah, downtown Hannibal. She goes, everybody in Hannibal. So it's a teeny little stretch.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
I'm down there all the time.
But it's not like a big area, right?
It's growing.
Okay. Downtown Quincy has like 92 square blocks. It's one of the largest Main Street programs in the country.
Is it really?
Downtown Quincy is huge. It's massive. Downtown Hannibal is teeny tiny. Like it's dwarfed by like how big Quincy's downtown is. One thing about Quincy downtown is, so you've got the district, like the governing body that runs the downtown. Of course, you've got the city council, who, I mean, I like the vast majority of the city council. I'll just say I like all of them because I don't have any problems with any of the city council. I've got differences of opinions, but I pretty much like everybody. But some of those guys, the answer is no. What's the question? Oh, you want to do something in Quincy? No. Oh, you want to do this? No. The answer is no.
Yeah.
Okay. In Hannibal, I don't think the answer is no. I think the answer is yes. Like, yes, let's build the downtown. But when you go downtown Hannibal, it's not a huge, okay, so Quincy, downtown Quincy, Riverfront to 12th Street, Broadway to State.
Yeah.
Massive area.
It's a big area.
Not even manageable. So remember when Bruce Guthrie was executive director? So he was expected to cover 92 square blocks. And now Emily Lombardi is expected to cover 92 square blocks. She's expected to go into every single business, talk to every single resident. And then, how many paid positions are there in the district? Do you know?
No idea.
I think there's one.
Is that it?
Yeah. And it's not like a super heavily paid position, but it's one person. And then you've got a board. And then you've got the district diplomats that are expected to volunteer for everything. But when you say people, like the downtown Quincy doesn't have enough people. If we found a way to raise the club, it's called the district diplomats. And I think there's like 17 people. And if I'm wrong, someone fact check me. If there's like 57 people, okay, well, hallelujah. But I think it's a very small group. And I think you need 300 to 500, a solid 250 to 300 people running the downtown, actively doing it all the time. So, if I ever get Steve Gramke on this thing, I'm going to say, look, Gramke, I know you, I give Steve Gramke a lot of crap, and I'm calling him out, and I'm going to text him that I totally called him out.
A good story about him.
Can we talk about it live?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we should. So
it actually involves part of Quincy. So yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. So by the way, he's a brilliant guy. He's one of the nicest guys ever.
Yeah.
Super smart, family man, God-fearing, badass. Steve Gramke is awesome. I went to school with him. It's phenomenal. He's good on every level. But we need guys like him to say, let's build the downtown. Which by the way, he's more of an Eastern Corridor guy. I think he feels the same way that you feel about, it's like, yeah, Frank, I'm in real estate. I own this real estate company, and it's so difficult tuck pointing all the time and removing all the old wiring and all the knob and tube and getting everything up to code. Because that's another thing about downtown Quincy is when you buy these buildings downtown, you have to go kiss ass with code enforcement. And there's some awesome dudes like Michael Seaver, stud.
Yeah, great guy.
Well, yeah. And who's the really smart but gloomy guy that's that hangs on every point, super detail oriented? Warren Dietrich. Good dude, like that guy. But he hangs, he's like, yeah, he's kind of like, no, like the answer is no, what's the question? But he's good at what he does. So Warren, if you're listening, you're very good at what you do. But I need to hear this Stephen Gramke story.
Okay, so this is about not quite a month ago. It was right July 1st, actually. My family, my in-laws, for their 60th wedding anniversary, they flew all their grandkids and kids over to Spain, and we spent 2 weeks over there.
You went to Spain recently?
Yeah. And so on the way back, we flew directly into Chicago. Well, it took us almost 3 hours to get through customs in Chicago. It was the biggest disaster I've ever seen. We get through there, and we miss our flight. So we go to the counter to reschedule, and there's no flights left. Keep in mind, we had to fly to St. Louis because that's where our car was. So they go, well, the next earliest flight we have is there's one flight the following day, and we would have had to, it was a 16-hour flight. We had to go to Charlotte, have a layover, and then fly back to St. Louis. It was going to take 16 hours. We're like, well, screw that. We're not doing that. So we decided we would book I don't even know what the new airline is here. It's not Cape Air anymore.
Right. Yeah, I can't think of it.
But we booked the new one.
It's not Spirit or anything like that, is it?
I don't think so. But
Okay.
They were super friendly. They worked really hard to try to get us home. We couldn't get home, and we had to wait in the airport for a long, long time because of the weather. Well, there's 5 of us, and then Steven was up there with his wife and their daughter at a volleyball tournament.
Okay.
And we ended up spending 10 hours in O'Hare Airport together. That's where it starts. So we got to know each other really, really well, which I've already known Steven since we were little kids. But we wait there, and then we say, okay, it's midnight. It's like 12:15, and we just say, okay, it's done. We're going to take the train. Let's go get a hotel. Well, we go to book a hotel, and it had already rolled over to the next day. We couldn't check in anywhere till 4 p.m. And it's 12:15 in the morning. So we start walking around trying to find hotels for just a few hours because we have to get downtown to catch the train in the morning. So we finally, after like an hour walking around, we get a hotel. We check in. We get about 2 hours of sleep. Well, as we're checking in, the guy says, oh, there's construction and a NASCAR race downtown. It's taking 2 hours to get to the train station or to get down there. So we get up extra early, take our cab. It takes us 15 minutes to get there. We get to the train station 2 hours before the train gets there. It was a mess.
My goodness.
A mess.
So so you got home though?
He was awesome. We had a great time. Yeah.
No, he's awesome.
Oh, he's great.
I was actually I modestly say this, I very humbly say this. We own our family has an inexpensive boat that we have in the marina, which, by the way, I think that Quincyans, if you want to experience Quincy, here's a little life hack. So Steve Gramke I'm totally calling out Steve Gramke nonstop on this thing. Steve Gramke has a nice, modest receptacle of a boat. He takes up and down the Mississippi. I also have by the way, all you need is like a little John boat on the Mississippi. You can spend like $5,000. You can spend $10,000 on a boat.
So is Hogback, is it still here?
Hogback is the Army Corps of Engineers are dumping sand on Hogback on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, I'm always trying to get Bob and Ashley and Brittany Bowl to come out in the river, and they work so hard they don't have time to come out on this boat.
What if you did a Club Buddy Hogback?
We should do that. Yeah. I'm gonna make sure you remind me to tell Bob this.
Bring the Hogback parties back, and
we're gonna have a blast. Yeah. And we're also trying to plan a Firefly thing. Oh, by the way, you should go to EOW.
Oh, man.
You should go to it's Chrissy Duran's birthday.
Oh, that'd be
so
fun.
If Chrissy Duran is listening,
if you could guarantee me that I'm not going to wash away in the biggest thunderstorm of my life, I would probably go to it.
Real quick, I know we're jumping all over the place. I remember an EOW back in the day where you are walking up this thing, and I saw you, and you go, "Hey!" I go, "You made it!" You're like, "Dude, this is awesome!" Like nobody knows that this is a thing.
It was unbelievable.
It was fun, right?
You had all the weird glow in the dark stuff, and there's like a basket you could climb up and sit in.
Yeah.
Like a netting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just wild.
We had 1,200 people through a Facebook invite.
See, okay, so going back to your point about population and growing, that's what Quincy needs. We need those events. We need the big fun stuff because that's how you get people to move here. Like Nashville, people go to Nashville because that town's fun.
Oh, man.
I love Nashville.
Ever been on Broadway?
Yeah, all the time.
By the way, do you know what the entire, and I'm always plugging the 6th Street Promenade because that's what we're trying to do.
That's what I mean.
That's what this is. That's what we're doing. So
you guys are killing it. It's awesome.
There are 52 people now on the committee, and we've got a meeting coming up on August 10th. I think Maggie Strong. Shout out to Maggie. She's been amazing. She called a meeting yesterday to have one. The entire 6th Street Promenade is supposed to be a destination area where you got food and bev places where you drive your street legal golf cart to the promenade, park there on a curbless street where everything. Have you seen the designs for it? Like the plans for it?
Oh yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we're gonna get that done. But this idea of I gotta tell you, so I go out on the river and I go to Hogback. And I'm sitting there with my son and my daughter, and we go to this little island that just kind of popped up out of nowhere because the river level dropped. And who's there? Steven Gramke with his family just hang out, nestled in a cove. Nobody knows he's there. And I throw the anchor out. I go, "Steve." He's like, "Dude, what's up?" We sat there for like 45 minutes and talked about the downtown, talked about pretty much had this conversation.
Yeah.
And he's just an awesome guy to kind of turn it full circle. Here's my last question, because we're going to wrap this up. On a score from 1 to 10, rate Quincy on what it's like to raise a family here, from 1 to 10. Like 1 meaning like the worst place to raise a family, 10 being it would rival any of the best places in the world to raise a family. Between 1 and 10, where do you put Quincy?
I put it at a 10.
A 10?
10. I couldn't, honestly,
Wow.
I couldn't think of a better place for me to raise my kids.
Okay.
I mean, we got the bike trails. My kids will ride their bikes down there. I mean, how many communities can you just give your kid free rein to ride his bike and you feel safe doing it?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's a conservative town. It's got lots and lots of good people. I don't think for 20-year-olds, I don't necessarily think Quincy's set up for young kids. But when it's time to raise a family, have you noticed how many people move back to this town?
They come back. They come back.
Most people find their way back here, especially when they start having kids. It's just you can't beat it. And look at look at the high schools. I mean, I'm a Blue Devil, big Blue Devil.
Sure.
That Blue Devil gym. I've yet to see any other high school that has that kind of presentation. Q&D football. I mean, my gosh, who doesn't
Q&D football? Yep.
Who doesn't want to be a part of
I'll tell you
things?
what, Saeed a couple of years ago, Saeed Ali, the great Saeed, he took me to a Blue Devil basketball game, and I hadn't been there in a while. And I mean, I would go there as a Q&D high school kid. And I remember going back to our own games, and you're a Blue Devil, I'm a Raider, but I literally just sent my boy to Blue Devil soccer camp, and he's rocking a QHS Blue Devil shirt right now.
Good.
Well, he should. No, listen, man. Like, if we're gonna be in this town, we need to go to the max. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think that it's been fun.
Dude, thank you so much.
Nervous coming on here.
Dude, you're the man.
You're a legend.
No, I think
your second guest. That's incredible.
I am lucky. I'm lucky to have this platform. When people use the term privileged, I don't really. I used to like that term, and then I stopped liking that term because I think it gets misused. But I have the privilege of being a contributor for Muddy River. I think Muddy River is exploding.
Oh, it's great.
It's exploding in its popularity, and it gets better every day. The journalism is amazing. You see what like Bob Goff and David Adam do with like these trials where they sit in court all day long and give everybody the play-by-play. The work ethic of everybody, of every single person in this organization.
I was going to try to break a huge story on this podcast, but Bob shot me down. So
oh really?
He's going to take it and he's going to run with it. So
okay, we'll
let that slide.
We'll do it, and we'll end right there. So thanks so much.
Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
Did you sell your car?
I sold my car.
Ah, nice.
I sold my car to the great Ryan Hincamper, and So real quick, for those who don't know, I've been rocking an 07 Honda Accord for the past 13, 14 years. My friend Dominic O'Donnell. Do you know Dominic O'Donnell?
Oh, yeah.
I was at Isring. Is it Isringhausen?
Springfield?
Back in 08, 09 when I moved back to Quincy. And I'm like, hey, man, he's like, what are you doing? You want to come over and hang out and watch some football? I'm like, I'm at Isringhausen. He's like, what are you doing there? I'm like, I'm test driving Porsches. He goes, oh, God. Murphy, don't drive a Porsche. You just moved back to Quincy. Everyone's going to think you're a douche. I go, for driving a Porsche? He's like, you see anybody driving Porsches in Quincy? I'm like, well, no. I mean, I'm gonna drive it's gonna be like a 1992 white cabriolet with like red leather. He's like, oh God, like everyone's gonna hate you. So he talked me into buying a Honda Accord 6-speed, and I sold it yesterday. Nice. So I'm out.
6-speed?
A 6-speed Honda Accord. Damn. Yeah. So anyway, I was I shed a tear, but it's gone. But hey. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
See it. That's it.
Cool. Love that. Awesome.
What am I doing?
Peeking at some cute